All right, so you mentioned on the last one when you were going through the transport world with Steamboat Willie, is it really just going to be kind of a linear process, or you mentioned there were kind of maybe some secrets that you can get into?
Sure, well, I mean, we want player choice even in the 2D platform. So in Steamboat Willie there, it was a simple high hazard, high reward versus low hazard, low reward, two different paths. But like I said, there are 40 of those in the game right now, I believe. And there are certainly things to find beyond what you saw in that example.
Right. So when you're talking about the paint thinner versus the paint, I noticed up here that you can either kind of have this blue meter or green meter based on how much thinner or paint you use. How does that play into how your character develops through the game?
Well, that meter is tracking my playstyle. I've been using a lot of paint, so it's filling up with blue here. And if I do enough of it, which I'll go ahead and actually fill this pump up with paint to bring the pirates back, that really brought my meter up a whole lot. And not only that, but it gave me one of these guys we call a guardian. Now this one in particular is a tint. He's been attracted to my painterly ways, and his job is basically to help me continue on that path. This guy in particular, if I were to run up to an enemy, he will go ahead and paint him for me and make him my friend.
Okay, awesome. Now, is Mickey's physical appearance ever altered based on your choices with paint thinner or paint?
Now, Mickey Mouse is always Mickey Mouse. So granted, he's our version of Mickey Mouse, which we got to put into this game. But Mickey Mouse he's Mickey Mouse.
Okay, awesome. Now, could you explain a little bit more about the television screens? I noticed you put one up and it kind of distracts an enemy. Are there any kind of different gameplay elements that brings into as players go through the game?
There certainly is. Our sketches have multiple uses as well. Now over here we have an enemy called a Beetleworks. He's a particularly nasty guy because he is not tuned. So that means that I can't simply thin him out and erase him or paint him in. Now if I paint him, it will slow him down. Oh, hold on, I'm getting some... There we go. But he does have this tune element of the teacup ride up above him there. So if I can paint that in and then thin it out, it will reveal a weakness that I can take advantage of. But going back to the television sketch, if I drop it by this guy, it'll give him quite a jolt, which will allow me to come up here and get some cheap shots on him. So that's two of the uses of the television sketch right there.
Okay, nice. Now, as far as the level design, I know you mentioned you kind of have transport worlds, and then there's kind of like some RPG type levels, and then there's like some action levels. Could you give us kind of a description of those, and then kind of the scale and scope of these levels?
Sure. Ventureland was an example of the quest map, which is where we will be interacting with characters, getting quest items, using shops. The action map we see here in Skull Island is an example of that, which we're here to do a specific goal, which is raise this boat to progress forward. The 2D transition levels, basically cartoon characters, we may use a subway, they can travel through film projectors. So that's how they get from one world to another.
Now, as far as the length of, naturally have the word epic in your title, as far as the length of the game and just maybe the size of the levels and the worlds as you go, can you give us an idea of how big they are?
Well, I did mention that those transition levels, we've got about 40 of them in there right now. So that gives some idea of scope. But we do want the game to be, able to be played through within about a day or so. But what we want is so much player choice and so much variance that you can play through it multiple times and have a completely different experience. There we go, I'll show you this guy. And here I'll use one of the Guardians right now to paint him in. That will allow me access to thin out the anchor. I believe this is the last pump here, so I can actually show you. When we go ahead and fill in all the pumps with paint, we'll get our reward. Now, if we had filled it with thinner, the machine would have broken and rivers of thinner would have come out of the eyes of the skull, and that river would have actually headed towards Ventureland. So when we returned there later, it would have been drastically different in its environment, as well as how characters interacted with Mickey Mouse.
Okay, so if you're using, like, let's say you're using more thinner than paint as you go through, does that limit your opportunities as far as secret areas you can travel to, or like basically the more areas you restore, is that unlock more content for the game?
Well, I mean, there isn't like a good or a bad path. There's a paint path and there's a thinner path. And there's secrets to be found for each one that you choose. So there will be things that are not accessible, I believe, if you're doing one versus the other. But there will be equal parts of things that would not have been accessible had you gone the other direction.
So it's really kind of up to the player as they go through. You kind of give them so many different options that they can go through again and again and kind of have a different game every time.
Exactly. We definitely want lots of high replayability.
Nice. Now, can you give us an idea of some of the varied environments we'll see as we go throughout the game?
I can't go too much into the levels that aren't already in the demo, I'm afraid. I'd certainly love to, because we've got some really cool stuff that I'm pretty excited about. But I can say that, like, Disney fans, you know, Disney historians, they will certainly find things to enjoy. Like, we had Gus there. He has not been seen since the 40s, and even then, never to the public. So here we go. Here's our reward. So, but then at the same time, we do not want to make this exclusive or limit it to just Disney fans. We want a true all ages game that anyone can play and that anyone can enjoy. So we're not looking to do any exclusion or anything like that. So we've had 80 years of Disney heritage to borrow from and to inspire us, but that, what we're, first and foremost, what we want to do is make Mickey Mouse a video game star. So, I mean, he's been successful in everything else that he's put into, and we want to make sure that video games remains on that list.
Well, awesome. Thanks, Eric. And when can everyone expect Epic Mickey in stores?
Disney Epic Mickey will be out in holiday of 2010 this year.
Thanks a lot.
If you'd like to catch this is kind of cool here.
Okay.